The developments in Syria are serious. Bashar al-Assad has been dislodged. The Assad family was effectively ruling Syria for the last 50 years. Perhaps he had to go, but the chaos that he leaves behind is something to be worried about. Joining me in a conversation to understand what's the consequences going to be, Ambassador Arnab Goswami. He's someone who has been India's ambassador to that geography, including in Jordan, including in Libya and Malta. Let's try to understand from him what this means for India and the rest of the world. How do you see the developments that have taken place in the last 24 hours with the fall of Assad regime in Syria?
Well, I think that these have been very dramatic developments, but they are not something one-off. We have seen what happened in Afghanistan, we have seen what has happened in Bangladesh, where we have seen the regime fall so quickly, in fact. And therefore, this is simply becoming a trend. As far as the Syrian situation is concerned, Syria has been having problems since at least 2011, when the Arab Spring happened. So Assad did not try at all to bridge the differences or to provide any succor to his people, essentially. And that is why we have seen that these groups like the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham or the Free Syrian Army or the Syrian Democratic Forces, they have all made a pitch now. Since the very unusual combination of international situation has helped them a great deal. We have seen that Russia has been preoccupied, which has been sustaining the Assad regime for all this while, almost now 8 years. Is preoccupied. Iran is already tired and fatigued and is facing other challenges apart from its domestic challenges. Its proxies in Hezbollah and Hamas have been decimated significantly. And so therefore, all these factors came together and helped the militant group, which has been, of course, very active in the northwestern of Syria, to take over at a speed which was unprecedented.
Ambassador Goswami, let's get into specifics of this now. Whosoever, because you're connecting the dots, you mentioned about Afghanistan, then you mentioned Bangladesh, and now Syria. Are you in a way suggesting that this is the handiwork of some deep state?
Well, I think that all the problem in the world, essentially, I have seen in most of the developing countries, whenever there has been a regime change, is always an agenda. And we have seen that as far as Syria is concerned, after Libya, and I was ambassador there at that time, after the fall of Gaddafi, the Western countries, NATO, they all started aiming at removing Assad. And so since 2011, we've been seeing that they created this Free Syrian Army, and that has been continuing. But then the Russians, which had learned their lesson in Libya, came to the rescue of Assad and to fight, of course, against the ISIS, which was also gaining ground there significantly, along with others. And so it was invited by the Assad regime. And they propped him up. But that was the time that Assad regime really lost because it did not try to bridge or address the basic challenges that the people of Syria were facing. And that is why you see everywhere people welcoming these people. There's too many unknowns at the moment how the things are going to eventually play out. But still, it shows that the people were really fed up with the Assad regime on the ground.
But Ambassador Goswami, the fact is that it's a difficult choice for the rest of the world between devil and the deep sea, as one would say, because while Assad was seen as a dictator and it was a government that had been there for almost half a century with just one family, the fact of the matter is the replacement is perhaps even worse. Essentially, what we are getting is al-Qaeda in Damascus. So it should be a worrying development as well.
I hope so. It is a worrying development, but then the thing is that they have been enabled by those very deep state and those very countries. I mean, we have seen that they have been supported by United States and as well as by the Turkish government. And therefore, it is not that it just happened overnight. They have got their support, all these people. But it is only one of the groups, the HTS, which has the linkages and the history with ISIS as well as with Al-Qaeda. And as you know that this is a situation which is extremely disturbing in some senses. But if you were to see that the statements that have been made by their leader Jolani and how he's going to play out at the moment, he's not talking of revenge, he's talking of adjustment, regrouping everybody. But you know, the proof of the pudding lies in eating, and eventually we will come to know how they're going to play. They are not going to change their colors so easily because the basic philosophy and the ideology remains. And if you remember his interview a couple of days ago at the CNN, he said this will be Islamic state sort of country that they are looking at. So obviously this is a cause of concern for the Arab countries. It should be a cause of concern for Israel and for the cause of concern for even the United States. And Turkey, of course, is invested in this region in that sense. He has been wanting to displace Assad for a very long time, especially Erdogan and Assad's meeting could not take place, as you know, that he was trying, that there could be discussions between both sides. But Assad refused to essentially talk to the opposition also. So I think that he's equally culpable in this whole thing, the way it has been played out. But of course, it's a very difficult scenario at this stage to predict exactly which way we are heading.
No, Bashar al-Assad is obviously to blame for the mess, but it's a very difficult mess. I mean, the United States eliminated al-Baghdadi in 2019, and one of his proteges is someone now in the form of al-Jolani, with whom they will have to deal with. Israelis might, for a while, feel happy about the fact that the territorial link between Iran and the Hezbollah and the logistic support that came through the Syrian regime is gone, but they still have a more difficult situation there in terms of Syria effectively fracturing. You have the Turkish element coming in, so to say. You have HTS. You would have other forces getting in. What does it mean for India in terms of taking care of our interests in West Asia, Ambassador Trigunath?
Well, one thing I would like to tell you is, as far as Iran is concerned, I think that is going to be the biggest loser in this bargain because they are losing that very strategic connectivity that they have to Iraq and Lebanon and to Hezbollah. Already in the war between Israel and Hamas and Israel and Hezbollah, both those major strategic proxies that Iran had have been significantly decimated. So that is for sure. As far as Russia is concerned, also again, they would also be losing in the game for quite some time. And unless, of course, they are able to make up with the Turkish government and try to protect their own interest, especially the naval base that they have there. As far as India is concerned, I think that we have been working with the government of the day, and for many years, India has been working with, providing assistance to the Syrian government in the past. At the same time, it is mainly assistance for the Syrian people, I would say, because they have been, whether it is assistance that we give through the UN agencies or directly for the earthquake or others that happen. India is known for providing assistance. Of course, in the meantime, we will see that there would be definitely a recalibration by the people. I mean, who are you going to deal with? Today, we need to also understand there are multiple groups there who are fighting. How do they adjust this power exchange and adjustment of the power sharing formula? What will be there among themselves? That will be also a very major challenge. Israel, of course, in the beginning might feel that Iran is weakened to some extent and Hezbollah loses its support availability. But at the same time, let us not forget, the Syrians, they are all Syrians. And Syrians, Israel is occupying the Golan Heights. The issue of Palestine is still alive. So I would very much doubt if they can have any kind of a modus vivendi with the forthcoming government that's likely to be there. Apart from the Turkish factor. Yes.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for that deep dive into the situation in West Asia, given the developments that have taken place with a regime change happening in Damascus, Bashar al-Assad making way for rebel forces. Let's take a look at the latest insofar as what's the situation on the ground insofar as Syria and the civil war there is concerned.
The insurgents claim that they have captured the capital, Damascus, and that President Bashar al-Assad has fled the country.
نعيش في اللحظات الأخيرة لتحرير مدينة حمص بإذن الله تعالى. هذا حدث تاريخي الذي سيفصل بين الحق والباطل. ونوصي إخوان المجاهدين كما أوصيناهم في السابق بأن يعطفوا على الناس ومن ترك سلاحه فيؤمنوه ومن فر فلا يدركوه.
The Assad family's 50-year grip on Syria has finally crumbled. Watch how a statue of Bashar al-Assad's father was demolished. Rebels were seen in large numbers carrying a new Syrian flag. Gunfire echoed in the streets, making the rebels triumph. Syrian rebels proclaimed victory, declaring the full capture of Homs, Syria's third largest city. As the regime disintegrated, opposition sources confirmed that President Bashar al-Assad fled to an undisclosed location. In a dramatic turn, furious residents tore down Assad's poster, recreating the spirit of Arab Spring that swept through Homs over a decade ago. Syrian Prime Minister Mohammad Ghazi al-Jalali appeared in a recorded message offering to work with any leadership chosen by the people. Reports emerged of rebels storming the notorious Seydianyai military prison north of Damascus, a symbol of Assad's brutal regime. Key military outposts in Suwaida fell to insurgents without resistance, as government troops fled in disarray. The insurgent offensive, spearheaded by the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group, encountered little opposition from Assad's crumbling military. The Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is Syria's most prominent insurgent group. The Hayat Tahrir al-Sham joined forces with the Turkish-backed Syrian National Army. Not only that, the group also has historical links to the Al-Qaeda. Explosions and gunfire shook the heart of Damascus as residents braced for what seemed unimaginable until now. As Syria spirals into chaos, how will this situation escalate?